Hey, it's Matt Pinfield, and it's Friday. Welcome back to In a Lonely Place. If you haven't watched the show before, it's really cool. It's like, you know what it's all about? Because, we're all self-quarantined in the pandemic. What we are doing is, I made a decision. I was talking to Linda Perry and Kerry Brown about, they said, you want to do a show? And I'm like, yeah, and I want to get my friends, people that I've known, that I love, that I care about, to talk about music and their lives, like how we're getting through this thing, but not to make it just a downer, because there's enough of that. So I wanted to make it important and share the music that we love, because we are all music lovers. Things that always got us through. In a Lonely Place was named after a Humphrey Bogart movie from 1950, a Smithereen song, and a New Order song. And I just thought, well, I live alone. Yeah, I went through a breakup a year ago. Perfect name for a show. So it's Friday, and I'm so excited to have my guest. I got to tell you, I met him when he was really a young guy, and he was the coolest, most enthusiastic young guy. The first day I met him, and he's done so many amazing things since that time. And I've been his fan, I've been his friend, and he's been so influential that there's so much I can talk about, and he's still always challenging. He's always pushing the envelope with a great band that I love called Fall Out Boy. Welcome our guest. It's Pete Wentz. Pete, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man? How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. Like the first time you and I met, you were a kid, right? And you came up to me at CBG. You're like, Matt, what's up, man? My name's Pete from Fall Out Boy. And it was so cool, man. I immediately went, what up? I just loved you, like right off the bat. You know what I mean? So it was very, very cool. And then I watched you guys grow. And, today is the anniversary, 15 years from Under the Cork Tree, which is just amazing to me. I mean, look, Sugar We're Going Down, just one of the greatest singles ever. I mean, it still holds up in every way, But, I mean, I followed you always. Like, I love the Century single. Like, there's always something about what you're doing to me that is very exciting. So I'm going to first ask you, like, how's everything going with you? I mean, you have 3 kids, I have 2, right? So how's everything going with like the family during the pandemic? And how are you dealing with that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, I think it's going as well as could be expected for us. Luckily, everyone is healthy. And, I mean, navigating it with kids at different ages are like my 5-year-old's pretty easy. My 11-year-old, I mean, he's got like real friends and stuff, you know what I mean? And so he doesn't really get to see him except in like Zoom and stuff. So like that's a little rough. And then my 2-year-old is like if you tried to keep the Tasmanian devil in your house, you know what I mean? It's just like literally everything you don't want her to do, she just does, It's like fully living with like a little person that just does opposite day all the time.
Yeah, and I got to say to you, I so respect you as a dad. Me being a dad and having raised kids in different areas and having to raise a kid in New York City in a bad winter where, you got to figure out what to do with them. And this is like that tenfold for like a young dad like you, And but at the same time, I mean, you're doing great things, and I'm just excited that you're here. What I always say, like as we said, we talked about the anniversary. But I wanted to talk to you because the thing about your songwriting for me was always just like, you just dug into so many clever things that were lyrically. I just loved the lyrics, and it's an adventure. And I think it inspired so many other artists to look at a different way of writing. And do you ever think about that? Pete, where did that come from with you? Like, when you started writing words?
I've just always been into like verbiage. I like words, and I like certain words a lot more than other words. And I grew up liking to read books, and and then you go and you listen to the Smiths or New Order or punk bands or whatever it is, and it kind of like opens the doors to the idea that poetry can be part of rock music, and poetry can be part of like hip hop. Like I look at somebody like Jay-Z and I think he's a poet, you know what I mean? I think Kanye West is a poet. Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the stuff that like the was considered nerdy when you're a little kid or whatever, all of a sudden like you're like, well, I'm good at fantasy football now because I like was into math or whatever, which was not me. I was not into math, but like I just think that we all have like different sets of tools, and you just put them together differently, and that's what makes you who you are. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And I love that. I mean, I just love the way you would reference great movies, like you said, books. Very similar, like you mentioned Morrissey. We talked about Morrissey. Of course, Joy Division, New Order. But I love that it was always coming from a very smart place. And I mean, I know you probably aware of this, but do you realize like how many other bands you inspired to like challenge to write better, like and to make things literally more smart and literal?
I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I never know. It's so weird when you're in a thing. It's like like doing like being like VJs and stuff. Like that's in a whole generation of kids that were raised on MTV. You know what I mean? And like, but you never like you don't think about it in those terms because you're like you are you. So you don't like. And if somebody says it to you, you're like, oh, that's weird. Or like for me at least, I'm like, oh yeah, because I think of like Morrissey is iconic or like whoever like, but I don't really think. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit of a like a mind fuck. Can you say fuck or no?
Yeah, you can say fuck. And I know what you're saying because I love and appreciate when people tell me that I inspired their musical taste and 120 minutes and MTV was such a big part of their lives. I mean that never gets old for me, and I'm always grateful. But you're right. I guess when you're living it, right, and you're doing it, you're in the moment, right? So that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, totally.
So when From Under the Cork Tree, which, like I said, today's the anniversary, 15 years, when that started to take off, and you saw things starting to like really change with the band and people, the fan base. I mean, you were already building a fan base. How was that for you? Like, how did that feel? People were really listening to your lyrics. You could see them singing them to you from the audience. And it was literally, there was something that was going on with Fall Out Boy that just like literally went to a whole new level. How was that like as a young guy?
It was weird, man. It was a strange time, because we put out, so we were signed to a major label, and we like, kids in their, parents' offices or whatever, wherever they were, dorm rooms, like kind of like shared our songs, but we weren't like thought of within pop culture, you know what I mean, or whatever. And so we were like the biggest band that like no adults knew about, you know what I mean? And so when we put out Sugar We're Going Down, it didn't impact the radio, and we put out a really weird video with it, with this kind of like deer guy, and he falls in love. It's a bizarre video. You know what I mean? It was like it was a weird one, and that really took off on TRL, and it was really driven by MTV, and that was driven by our fans, and that forced it to kind of get played on radio, because it's like weird. It's weird music for pop radio to play. You know what I mean? It's like it's weird. It was like guitar heavy and weird lyrics and weird song titles, and the guys didn't really look like they should be at like Jingle Balls. You know what I mean? So it was So when that started happening, it was just weird, because it was like those moments where you're like, everybody's at a party, like the record scratches, and you're like looking around and you're like, the record scratch because we just walked into the party? I don't even really know. You know what I mean? It's like, it was just surreal. You know what I mean? Like a once in a lifetime thing. And you can't really bottle the feeling of like walking into, the TRL studio in Times Square at that time. It's just like a different thing. There's no, there's no analog to that. There's nothing like YouTube video counts or whatever, like it just isn't the same thing, and I'm sure that's similar to like when the Beatles played Yankee Stadium, or not like that, like, there's just no analog to it. Like you could explain it, but like it just doesn't, the feeling is so different, so it was strange, and it was surreal, because it was also like, we were just weird, we were like a weird little punk rock band, so it was pretty, it was strange for us, because we'd be like, with like the Backstreet Boys or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it was just like it was weird.
And you know, it was amazing though, and it took such an incredible hold. And you know, I still listen. Like I think about the fact that and Patrick has such an incredible voice. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's like we don't look like typical rock stars or typical whatever it is. But you guys are great, and man, people just gravitated. And it was a beautiful time to see that stuff happening. So you know, so I have to ask you, like, then you like, I mean, you never. I love the thing about you, and you and I did a thing once before for I forgot what it was, but we're doing something together. You, me, and Ryan Tedder, and I can't remember what it was. But it was a mentoring thing.
Right.
You know, you have never rested on your laurels. Like you're always moving forward, and I really respect and appreciate that. And I know your fans do too. And you're always challenging yourself musically. And I think, and that's really cool too, because I mean, you look at the trajectory of all the records that you guys have done, and then even things you did with like Black Cards. But look at you signing bands, finding Panic at the Disco, which is, I mean, who are definitely inspired by you. If you listen to Ryan Ross's early songs, very different than what's going on with Brandon now. And I love the band forever, and I love Brandon.
Right.
I mean, he's, oh my God, Death of a Bachelor. I mean, this shit's so great. But I will say that it was just amazing. You were, it's not restless is the wrong word, but you just said, I'm going to just keep doing things. Talk to me about finding Panic at the Disco and Gym Class Heroes, because that's pretty badass.
Yeah. I mean, so like before you call it like marketing, it's like creating a culture, right? And before it's A&R, you're just finding songs you love, right? And you know, like it's not really like. So I found through Gym Class Heroes had done this song that referenced all these bands, and I got sent that and loved these guys and heard this song Cupid's Chokehold, and was like, it was one of those songs where you're like, wow, this doesn't fit into anything. It doesn't, you know, like it's like hip hop, but it's like a live band, but it's like pop melodies, and there's like a sample, but it's like been resung, and so it was just weird. It didn't fit in any lane at the time. And I loved that. I thought that was exciting. I thought Travis was the star, Travis McCoy. And Panic, they kind of like, we'd gotten into a little thing, and they sent me a song, and I was like, wow, this is, you know, like, and it was like kind of like, you know, like they were goofing on me, and I was going to goof back on them. But when they sent me the song, it was probably one of the best songs I'd heard that year. Maybe the best song I'd heard that year. And
was I right? So what was it? Which one? Right? Which song was
this
it?
was early. So this was the song was "Time to Dance." I think I can't remember. Yeah, it was "Time to Dance." Maybe it was a long time ago. And so I went and visited them. They were like young. They didn't really know how to play the songs, and they had the thing. You know, definitely like they had the thing from Spencer and Brent and Ryan and Brendan, of course. And Brendan had like the like. When you go in and you talk to people, when they talk about certain actors, they talk about whatever, like the camera loves them or whatever it is, you know, like there's just something, like Brendan has that thing, you know?
Yeah, man. He's like, so what a voice, gifted. Like, I mean, and, you know, and I'm so glad you found them. And the fact that you responded to the people that were sending you music, I thought that was so cool. I mean, for me, it's always been my thing. I always want to make sure that I'm always they're promoting new music, but also like listening to everything. And what you did is you in that space, you changed some culture. I mean, if you think about it. And then Travis, how about his fists with a Daryl Hall and John Oates on his tattoo, right? You know, Travis McCoy, man. Yeah. I love that when I met him. He's like, dude, I love Hall and Oates. I thought it was the coolest thing. And, you know, great.
Yeah, I mean, I think because like by yourself, you can be like a ripple, but like with a crew, you can be a wave, you know what I mean? And I think that's what we always thought about it in those terms.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing when you think about it. You know, so I gotta talk to you, Pete. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm in the Hella Mega tour. I saw that show. I was hanging with all you guys at the Whiskey A Go Go. What a night! It was. You guys and Green Day and Weezer and an hour of your hits. in that club, man. And I've seen you in arenas. I've seen you at CBGBs. That night was so special. And, of course, I know it'll be rescheduled, but, obviously with all the touring, all our friends, you guys, I'm bummed about what's going on. But let's talk about that tour. Are you really excited when you guys get that finally going, when you go out with the boys?
Yeah, I mean, like our band grew up on Green Day. You know what I mean? Like, Basket Case was like a dog year in my life. You know what I mean? Like, it changed me. And Weezer too in that era. You know what I mean? Like, and so like it was big for us. You know what I mean? And I mean, I think beyond that is that like this was like a countercultural moment, you know what I mean? That was like counter programming because like we live in a hip hop world and we really do. And it's hard to deny that, you know what I mean? But I think that there are kids that are into guitars and there's kids that want to learn how to play the drums. And so to have it come together and have it feel like Monsters of Rock kind of thing was really cool. It felt like a little bit bigger than just the three of us, And so, yeah, we're excited. Like this is a tour we all want to do, you know what I mean? So like, we'll get it, I mean, like, it will happen. I don't know if it'll happen in the exact way that it's been planned, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it, man. That night was incredible. It's so electric. Like I said, you guys, Green Day and Weezer, just doing all your fucking killer songs. It was just such a fun night, man.
Thanks, man. That's awesome.
Beautiful. So let's talk. I want to talk to you about this new single that you're doing with the Cheap Cuts guys. Like check your phone. This thing is so cool because, I love it because I think it's something that I can't believe people waited so long to do something like what you just did and wrote with them. Right. And, it could sound like a Baz Luhrmann record, like something where there's a talking thing involved in the past, but it kind of needed to be said, in my opinion. So tell me how that came about. So, and I'll explain it and tell people who they are, like, the guys.
So these guys are producer DJs from the UK named Cheap Cuts. And I'm always listening to new music as you are, and always looking on the lookout for new music, for whether it's to sign or to listen to or take on tour. And I'd heard this song, and honestly, I've been trying to do this song "Sunscreen" by Baz for a long time. And if you haven't heard the song, you should check the song out because it's just kind of mind-blowing, and it kind of is perfect for right now. It's like all this advice that you actually need and then some that you don't really need, but it's really irreverent and fun. And I tried to do it about 10 years ago, and it came off really... I never put it out. It just wasn't right. It felt angry, and like it was just not the right tone. And so they'd sent me the song, and I started messing with it and writing to it. And it felt like it had more of that spirit. It felt irreverent, and it felt like part of like it's something that I needed to say to myself, because I think as humans we are a very bizarre, contradictory species. You know what I mean? Like my phone gives me anxiety, but I'm on it all the time, and the things that drive me crazy about it are also the tools that I use. You know what I mean? Like it's strange. And I don't know as people whether we're really supposed to have access to all this information all the time. Like I don't really know if it's great for us, but it's supposed to be like, I'm in this thing. You know what I mean? Like this is not like an old man yelling off the lawn. Like this is like a thing that I'm in and we're all in, and it's just like it's more just focusing a spotlight on it or something. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like throw away your phone or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like it's just more like this is a thing that is happening. And this is the way the inside of my brain feels.
And it was great. I mean, the thing about it is I love it because it's a lot of things that I've felt when you look at the phone, and I'm also, addicted to my phone, and social media is a big part of my life. And obviously it's, we have the information. I want to have access to my friends, to my music, to everything. And it was like the coolest thing. And I had to say, the first time I saw the video, which is great, people got to watch the video.
Oh, thanks.
Pete Wentz, check your phone because the video is awesome. And it's really got like this I mean, it just goes with the spoken word thing. And then,
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's like we recorded it maybe 5 months ago, but it really decided we should put it out during quarantine because it just felt like it fit the times we're in right now. Like, this is a strange time, and it's a strange time for everybody, and why not make some strange art?
yeah, and it was very cool. Now, speaking of art, before we talk about some of your favorite records, um, talk to me about the cartoon Mondo Trasho that you and
Oh, yeah.
Joe's done, and like, man, it's super cool. Explain to me how you guys came up with the concept and who's involved in the animation. Because my friend and I were watching it, and he was like, "Is that Rick and Morty's guys?" And he was just asking me. He loved it, and
Yeah.
Andre, we were talking about it. So tell me about it.
Yeah, so this is an idea that came out of Joe's, is a brainchild of Joe. He's got a really dark, funny sense of humor. I don't know if everybody knows that he has that. But this is like the jokes that he makes, all the time, and he always has show ideas like this. And so he put it together. He had, I think, a buddy of his animated it. So I don't think it was Rick and Morty guys, but I'm not totally sure on that one. But in that vein, it's like a similar vein. And this is something that he wanted to do, and it felt like it was something that we had a lot of potential for us to kind of put out there during this time, because I think everybody's home, consuming a lot of media, watching things, listening to things, and it seemed like the right time to do it, and felt like we could kind of support him putting it out. So yeah, that was the plan.
It's funny you did it on YouTube, Fall Out Boy channel, but the stories are fun. It's funny stuff. It's great. You know what I mean? Who was writing it with you guys? Was it you, Joe, or was a lot of it? What was it? Tell me.
This was really all Joe, the writing. I think he wrote a little bit with this guy, Brandon Dermer, maybe. I'm not exactly sure who he wrote everything with, but this is all really the brainchild of Joe. I tell you, this is what the inside of Joe's mind looks like, I think. You know what I mean? And it's funny and dark and strange and really relatable if you think about bands or know about bands. So yeah,
Which is very cool. Hey, have you ever watched those Mike Judge cartoons, Tales from the Tour Bus? You ever seen any of those?
I've seen one of them, I think. Yeah, it's really funny.
The country one is unbelievable. And then the George Clinton one, where there's a funk season and a country season, and it was amazing when George Clinton and the band are all tripping and they're on a bus and they go on a detour and they drive onto the set of Night of the Living Dead, and they're like, "What the?" It's just like the stories are, So it's funny. So I love your cartoon. And so listen, before we get into the albums, tell me what's going on. Are you writing some new songs right now, or you presenting stuff to Patrick? What's happening as far as Fall Out Boy goes at the moment?
Fall Out Boy's basically just hanging out right now. It's we had obviously planned to be doing this tour, and so we would be in rehearsal for the tour right now. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit more difficult to get Fall Out Boy going just because we're in quarantine. Whoa, cool, thank you. I just got a coffee delivered to me.
Good thing. Wow. Yeah, I got my ice water. We're good.
Thank you.
But I got to ask you this, Pete, man. I guess as a band, as a musician, and as you have you have a way, a style, the way that you work with an artist. I mean, some people are saying, "Oh, it's a great creative time," and then I'm thinking with some people, it's really hard because you're taking care of your families, and it's not the same creative atmosphere that you're used to working in. I mean, so what do you think of that?
So it's been easy to work on kind of solo stuff and stuff for me and the label and writing new songs. I've been writing with a neighbor of mine and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, Fall Out Boy, listen, it's a band and it's a partnership, and so it necessitates. It's maybe we could do it on Zoom. I'm not really sure. We haven't really gone down that road yet. But yeah, so I found it really freeing in the way that I can just make some weird stuff or make a weird TikTok or make weird. This is just fun, and it's just so far 3 months of your life where you're just kind of like trapped in your house and you come up with ideas and you like as long as you don't need like a full camera crew or something like you're able to do some of those ideas, you know. And then with Fall Out Boy like it's like Fall Out Boy's like a it's become like a big it's like a giant robot, you know, like that has like different arms or worked by different people, you know, like and so like it just takes more to get it going, you know. Um, but I mean, like we've been full speed ahead with the tour up until quarantine, obviously, and I mean it's full speed ahead. Like when we get it going again, you know.
When you get it going, it'll be amazing. You know, I mean, so you guys are like the road warriors, you know, and you know, it was funny. I've been thinking of some of the lyrics and songs, like which I love, like, you know, I wear black because I can't find anything darker. Like just like fun, you know, like I love things like
Yeah.
really telling you great lyrics, and I'm like, oh, that's me as well. Anyway, I wanted to tell you. So Pete, you picked. I love to ask my friends like you and artists about the albums that really are a big part of their life. And the first record that you picked was Metallica's Black Album, and I love that record, and I want to hear why you love it and why it's important in your life.
That record to me, is the record that is the quest that Fall Out Boy is always on. You know, like that is the ideal record in the way that they made a record, an album that is pure Metallica, yet was played on every single radio station, pop radio stations, and you know, like it's just to have that all things meet up in the right way at the right time is amazing. I remember being in the backseat of my parents' station wagon, and I had that on tape, and I listened to it on like one of those little yellow Walkman, and it was like, I mean, I don't know, like the Enter Sandman riff will be in my head for all time. You know what I mean? Like it's just iconic, and as a little kid, it felt like it was like the key to like getting into something new, or like it just was synonymous with the way I felt like I wanted to skateboard and hang out with my own friends and have whatever color hair I wanted. You know what I mean? It was just, I don't know. I think it's just a really special album.
It certainly is, you know, and it's you know, I give the guys credit for you know, just deciding we're going to do something a little different. They work with Bob Rock. Bob Rock's a great guy. He was on one of my panels at South by Southwest producer panels. I took Bob aside. We talked about that record and other things, and he told me on Mick Ronson, who was in Bowie's band, who produced his old band, the Payolas, taught him sometimes less is more. Yet, but he always understood the idea of a great chorus.
Is Mick Ronson Mark Ronson's dad?
No, you know what's weird? Mark Ronson's stepdad is Mick Jones of Foreigner.
Yeah.
So confusing.
I thought so too, but it's another Mick, right? Oh, yeah, okay.
So weird. Mick Jones. But Mick Ronson was, you know, Bowie's guitarist and Ziggy and all that stuff.
Okay, cool.
And so great. And a great producer. Like, so Bob Rock said that he learned everything he learned from him. And the Metallica guys told me that, you know, working and like, they were ready to do a record where, you know, like, you know, you go, I think a lot of bands go through periods where, you know, they're afraid to do ballads or, you know, or like work on a big chorus. And it just all came together with that album. What a great record, right?
Totally. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you know, I love that. I love those guys. Speaking of guys that are amazing and important rock and roll bands, the next two albums you picked were Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
I mean, listen, this was an album that my parents didn't really care for. I remember trying to go out and see this movie Terminator 2, which featured
Be Mine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great.
Totally. You know, and like this was just like a little bit above what my probably like my actual pay grade was. You know, like I wasn't probably supposed to be listening to this kind of music, but I remember I had like the Get in the Ring speech memorized. You know what I mean? Like all you punks in the press that want to rip off the kids who are paying their hard-earned money to read about the bands they want to know about. Like, and I knew the whole thing, you know what I mean? uh, what is it? Fuck you, Bob Guccione Jr. It's been
Yeah, I mean, Axl was like going off in a hip hop kind of way, right? I mean,
yeah, totally. And Axl Rose was like this Kanye before Kanye. You know what I mean? Like just like the guy's in a kilt and a catcher's uh, guard, and it's just to me again there was something like just so odd about it, and like they were making like weird music. Like November Rain is like a weird song. Like if you put out Appetite for Destruction, then you were like, this is going to be our next album, and it's a double album, and it's got some like weird shit on it. Like nobody wants like we're covering Bob Dylan on it and stuff like that's just weird. You know what I mean? And I just thought it's insane. Like the moment went to me when Axl Rose jumps off the aircraft carrier or whatever it is in the video. Like it's just like big ideas, big weird ideas. And I don't know. I think back on this double album. Like I think that like for a lot of people probably Appetite's more iconic, but like to me this is just like weird because it was like you could tell this is the album that like Axl or like maybe the band like really wanted to make.
yeah, and I agree with you because obviously Appetite is just it's was like a career defining. But I mean, I love the fact that they were challenging themselves on those two records, and it's funny you mentioned Get in the Ring because it's like funny because Axl obviously like those critics, like he was kind of legitimizing them because that's the as far as like it was kind of weird, but it was also cool because he was saying "fuck you," and of course people followed him over the years, like you said, Kanye, Eminem, like
he like lived a real like "fuck you" lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like just like. Which is whatever. I mean, listen, you can debate like people's perspectives and like what they should be saying and what they shouldn't be saying. There's something to me like that every era has an artist that just doesn't have a filter. You know what I mean? And like whether that's Kanye or whoever it is, it's just a guy that just says what he thinks and does what he thinks. And like, yeah, like maybe you don't want to like be that guy or whatever. Like maybe you do, like, you know what I mean? But like, I just think that there's something like I look at people like that and I'm like, that person is free. Like whether I agree with what they're doing or their politics or whatever it is. I'm like, this is just what they think, and they can probably sleep really well at night because they don't like sit here and factor in like, are people gonna be mad if I say this in an interview? Like they just are who they are.
Yeah, and Axl, that's the thing that was great. I mean, I love that. Love it. I'm wearing this Johnny Thunder So Alone shirt, which is. I actually even like, just for a second, I'll go off the Spaghetti Incident. A lot of people, is a covers album, and
right.
You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory. But I just like the idea that they just didn't care what they were doing next. It was like their thing, right. And I think that's great. And you mentioned that about Kanye too. So
I like the Spaghetti Incident.
Yeah, I mean it's a great record.
There's a couple good like punk covers on there, I think. Right?
Yeah. You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory with New Rose, and Hair of the Dog by Nazareth, like some cool, great stuff. Yeah. So let's talk about your next record, which, man, I love this Jay-Z Kanye record. I mean, two amazing artists. Watch the Throne, which was when that record came out, it was really interesting. Tell me why it's so important to you.
I thought this was a great record for the time period. I think that you rarely see two like humongous solo acts at the height of what they're doing do something together, like an under pressure kind of like thing, And I think that it's interesting because like the recipe comes out a little weird because it's not going to sound like either one of their solo things. And I also kind of remember that like when they were putting this out. They put out Ham first, and I was like, I think I had a similar reaction to kind of everyone else, where I was like, this is cool. If this is the record, it'll be cool. Yeah. But then Otis came out, and Otis came out with the video, and I was like, no, this is gonna be bananas. You know what I mean? Like this record is gonna be fucking crazy. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's just strange. Like they did some interesting stuff. Like instead of using like sampled Otis Redding, like it was like featuring, you know what I mean? Like they just did some things that were like kind of different, and like doing the arena tour that felt like it was a rock band, and the Givenchy stuff. Like it just felt like this was a moment where you were like hip hop hip hop's two of hip hop's greatest like one liners or trading one liners with each other. And we're in new territory. You know what I mean? And I think that after that, these kind of like collaboration moments within hip hop were bigger. And I think they were big before, but like this was just like the most iconic version of it.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, those guys are always top of their game. I've had some really great moments with Jay-Z, man. You know, when we were doing Farm Club, that show years ago, and such a great dude. Just talking about music. But you're right. I love the Otis Redding thing because the idea of like paying tribute to one of the greatest soul singers of all time, and just this amazing guy who died at 24. Or maybe, I mean, yeah, he was in the 24 Club, but it was a plane crash. He died in the Three Rivers in Madison, Wisconsin. Way too young, man. But I love that, you know. And so so Jay-Z's Black Album, which is your next record that you picked, which I love. And I would always think about, I'll say this quickly, that when Danger Mouse put together that in the White Album and did a gray album, you know.
Totally.
Did you like that when he did that thing?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think, and that was the start of whatever, like, you know, some of like the girl talk and the, you know, like there was just stuff where like it was sampled and hold on one second.
Oh, no problem. You know, I'll just tell you quickly. I know you're stepping out, but the Danger Mouse. I know he's got to take care of his kid. But I'll keep talking to you guys. Danger Mouse, I met because I was seeing a girl from New York City, a Russian girl, and we met at a Sinead club, and she said to me, and we went to see the Killers when they were like fourth on the bill. It was after I tried to sign them. I lost them to Island Def Jam. But I'm telling this funny story about Danger Mouse that, you know, we went to see the show and we went to a little pub around the corner from Irving Plaza called Shades of Green, the Irish pub. I'm sitting there with this girl and she goes, "Hey man, do you know who Danger Mouse is?" I go, "Yeah, of course I do. The Gray Album." She goes, "Well, you know, he went to college where you were born in Athens, Georgia at UGA with me. He was my friend. And he'd like to say hello to you." So we called him, and that was the start of my friendship with him.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool. You know, it was like, and that was when he started to be MF Doom stuff and all the, you know, when he, you know, Black Keys, and he brought the Gorillaz album up to my office, and he literally sent me the file of Crazy with Gnarls Barkley and said, "Man, you want to sign this?" And then I got laid off as like the changing of the guard.
Yeah.
But great stories either way. So I was thinking of him with the Black Album and the White Album, because, you know, it's just like there's. So tell me, you know, your interest is what I love about people like you and Travis Barker is that you like so many different styles of music and like to be involved in it and take chances.
Totally.
You know, which I think is super cool, man. So the Black Album for you, what was the thing? I mean, obviously it's, you know, one of the greatest, but tell me why that's one of your favorite records of all time.
I think that, again, it's groundbreaking, you know what I mean? Like, I think that this was Jay-Z's, and that, I mean, it is the, you know, I'm referencing the Metallica Black Album, but like, it is Jay-Z's version of that, you know, like where all things met up at the right time. Like his underground fan base was so big, but his pop fan base was so big. And you have a song like 99 Problems, which is just insane because it's like throwback Rick stuff, but like throw forward at the same time. You know what I mean? Like,
one of the greatest songs of all time. You know, like 99 Problems is one of the coolest songs.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a song where like people start referencing it within their own life, like I just got 99 Problems, or like even like when he talks about, you know, like on records before, but like Dirt Off Your Shoulders, like that's the song has become bigger than the moment. You know what I mean? And like that's like the biggest song of that year for sure, maybe more than that. But I think that like it's, again, whether it's him and Rick, like he was always really good about tapping into current cultural moments, and that's what that song felt like to me. It felt actually a little ahead of the cultural moment, which is really cool when you're like just in front of the wave, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And your next record, I mean, Lana Del Rey, Born to Die. What an incredible record that is. You know, I think about, I love the fact that she's always challenging the audience and saying what she wants to say. She's an incredible artist. Why is that one of your favorite records?
I think that when you are able to create a world unto itself the way like Springsteen does, like you have people all around the world that want to go to like New Jersey and they don't even really know why they want to go to New Jersey, but he sings about it and he sings about it in such a palpable way. And I think that Lana really did that on this record. She sings about moments that we all feel and you're able to tap into, but she sings about it in a slightly more clever way. You know what I mean? And I just think that it's really special when you see an artist that's like the full package. Like her perspective on that album is like very distinct. It fits with like what she looks like, what she sounds like, what she's singing about, and the visuals for it, like all make sense in this cohesive way. And it felt like something you haven't seen before, or like a remix of something you saw a long time ago. You know what I mean? And
in a new way, in a completely new way. That's what I loved about it when I saw it.
Very special. Yeah.
It's so
it's like one of those records you could like wrap yourself up in. It's got like a warm blanket vibe to it.
Yeah, it really does. And she's amazing. I remember when she was dating my friend Lee, who was managing Electric Lady Studios early on.
Right.
And it's pretty crazy. But anyway, I want to talk to you about, like, we love, you and I, all kinds of records, and you and I are like into so many different genres. The last record that you picked, because, I look at hardcore, straight edge. There's a lot of different things around, that we've been, you and I have certainly, been around the block and listened to a lot of different things. Shelter were, Mantra, that album, man. I was like, I came in as your last record. I'm like, oh, wow. I go, it was really cool. Because listen, Pete, I know you could pick 50 albums. There's so much stuff that is in your head and that, but so tell me why you picked that as the last record.
Yeah, I wanted to pay homage to some of like the hardcore and punk rock stuff that I'd grown up listening to, but something that that was a record I just randomly was revisiting, and I was into I was into Youth of Today and Ray and Purcell and the kind of stuff that they were on and the tip they were on, and like Project X and Gorilla Biscuits and Quicksand and these like New York hardcore bands. And then Shelter was the band that they were straight edge, and then they got into vegetarianism, and then from that they got into some like Hindu spirituality and Hare Krishna, and Shelter was the band that they formed after that. And it was also at the same time when they were like doing more melodic stuff. And Mantra's one that I can really listen to and revisit, and it makes me want to like stage dive in my room, and it makes me I think about all the time like how I don't have like a Shelter long sleeve like shirt, you know what I mean? Like I think about those all the time. It's something I want. I might actually try to get one today.
You should, man. I mean, I bet you can. Because it's funny. My shirts, I always joke, I can wear a different shirt every day, and I got to the point where like when I couldn't find shirts I wanted, I just started sending designs and making them. Right. Because it was like, so there's got to be a Shelter shirt out there for you.
Hope so.
And loving all that old punk rock and that stuff that was going on in New York City. You mentioned Gorilla Biscuits. Man, I remember when a video came in for Can't Wait 1 Minute More by Civ, and I was like, I helped, I fought to get that, make that a buzz clip at MTV. And it was Marco Siega, who like ended up doing Quicksand videos, POD videos,
right?
Episodes of Dexter, and he's a cool punk rock kid, man, in a band called Bad Trip. And I love all that stuff. In fact, today, I have to tell you this really quickly.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Gorilla Biscuits' Big Live song was a cover of the Buzzcocks, Sitting Around at Home, which is what we're all doing, right? And so I posted it. And then I posted a picture of my daughter when she was, my oldest daughter when she was like 5 with the Buzzcocks and me. And then Steve Diggle from the Buzzcocks, who wrote Sitting Around at Home, tagged himself in the photo. I was like, awesome, Steve. That's great. I mean, those songs are great. I mean, we come from that background. We love punk rock. We did, like hardcore punk rock. We loved everything. I mean, we're just music sponges, man. And that's what it's all about, for me and for you too. So to be like, is there something, I mean, you've done so much great stuff with the Cadence, or, if you want to call, is that pronouncing the label right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All the things you've done, signing great bands, working on all these different projects. I've always like I said, I've always admired you for being like a so worldly and being restless enough to keep wanting to do different things. Is there anything that you haven't done, you've been thinking about during this pandemic, that you really like to do? Like,
I want to score a movie. I want to I want our band to play in India. I mean, there's a lot of other places that we haven't been that I want the band to go to. There's lots of places in Asia and Africa, South America that we just haven't been to that I would love to play. Yeah, I mean, I just think that like, and it's something to look forward to, in the way that like this isn't gonna be forever, you know what I mean? And like you have to have things to look forward to, and I think so that would be something that I'd like to look forward to.
yeah, and you will, and that's a great thing. I mean, I've always loved your ambition and your art, but I think that's a great thing to do, and I think that we all have to think about that. Like, what do we want to do after this, and we appreciate things in a different way. I'm not saying we didn't appreciate them,
Right?
Yeah, and I miss my daughters, I miss my friends, I miss live music. But we're all helping each other get through this thing, and that's why this show is so important to me. And I thank you for doing it. For Music Cares, and it's just good hanging out with you again, Pete. You know what I mean?
Of course.
A lot of years now, right? I mean, so it's great, man. So your kids. I have one last question about, so you have an 11-year-old. What kind of music does he like?
He's kind of all over the place. He likes Travis Scott. He likes anything that's in like NBA 2K. He likes like music that's in like sports video games. He likes rock music too, though. He likes Queen. I think kids are like less genre based than you used to have to be, because now you have so much music at your fingertips that you're able to go from song to song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love that, man. I just love that you don't have to stay in this just like one thing in this box, and it's important. I mean, that you've done that with a lot of your songs. Think about it. I was thinking about Centuries, which I love so much. And earlier things too. And I was just the different things that you guys have done, the experimental things, using samples in songs.
Yeah.
It's just great stuff. Pete, I want to thank you, man, so much for doing this today.
Yeah.
It's so good to see you always.
Exactly. Yeah. Great to see you.
And thanks for sharing your wisdom with everybody today and giving people an insight into your thought process and the records that you love. I really appreciate you doing it, man. I can't wait to see you when that tour finally happens.
Yeah, man.
Last time I saw you, man, that show was, like I said, Whiskey a Go-Go, you guys, Green Day, Weezer. It was so genius. It was one of my favorite nights of last year. So
awesome.
Amazing. So listen, you take care. All the best. Love to you and your family, man.
Brother, you too.
And thanks for doing this, okay? And I'll speak to you soon, okay?
All
right, you got it. Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy. Man, what a great time with Pete. And I'm Matt Pinfield, In a Lonely Place. It's Friday. I'm really excited we have so many great guests coming up on the show. Pete was fantastic. This week was amazing. And we have, everybody from, Anderson .Paak to Tears for Fears coming up in the upcoming weeks. It'll always be about music because it's a thing that keeps me going and alive. And I just want you to know I love y'all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for keeping music in your heart. I want to say thank you to Carrie Brown, to Linda Perry, Chris Rivera, Rick Krim, everybody who works on this show, Steven, Aaron, Andre, like all my folks, all my friends. And again, thank you for spending your time watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope I got you out of the COVID mental space for an hour. All right. I'll be back with you on Monday. Thanks so much for watching. This is In a Lonely Place. I'm Matt Pinfield. Have a great weekend.